Guys, today I feel like we have finally gotten the Oppo Find N5 leak we've all been waiting for. I always feel kind of weird calling it the Oppo Find N5 because for most of my audience, it will be called the OnePlus Open 2, but technically we are in this instance talking about the Find N5. They're the same device. I always wonder if that confuses people. Very well-known Twitter tech leaker Evan Blass tweeted something pretty darn interesting this morning. With the caption N5, we have a series of images to look at. And yes, indeed, guys, that is the Oppo Find N5. And if you swap that logo out for one that says OnePlus, that's what it's going to look like. That is the device. So let's not dilly-dally around. Let's just jump into the imagery. And by the way, if you want to see those images for yourself, because Evan does have a private Twitter account, you can try to follow them and eventually they'll let you through. Or you can just click the link in the description to shanecraig.tech where I have uploaded them. Of course, with full credit to Evan. Great work. All right, so let's look at the first bit of this image here. And what you can see are three different colors. I actually really like this sort of violet color going on here. Very, very cool. Now, of course, we have a white color and we have a black color. I'm hoping that they will have sort of the faux leather thing again, and it's important to note that we might get different colors with the OnePlus Open. So don't pay super close attention to the colors, but man, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about with these devices. So yeah, let's look at this. So the camera module definitely does look a little bit different versus the OnePlus Open, and maybe actually another image might demonstrate this better. Let's go with this one here. I think we can really see everything that we need to see here. Zooming in best we can versus the original, the OnePlus Open or the Oppo Find N3, whichever one floats your boat. You can see that they have brought the LED flash, which was on the corner, into the camera module, and everything is sort of rotated a little bit so that you don't have the cameras in this triangle pattern. They're now rotated and everything's in sort of a squared pattern. We also have the periscope telephoto zoom lens being visible there. Notice how this might not be a perfect circle. Something in this, maybe the inner bit is slightly more squared and the outer bit is a perfect circle. Something's going on, but you can see there's extra space there, there, and there versus on these corners. And also notice, look at how much space there is between the camera bump and the edge of the device on the OnePlus Open. And look at how much more space there is on the Oppo Find N5. There is quite a bit more room there. We've also seen some other imagery that implies that the camera bump might not stick out as far as this. It might be very, very similar, but of course the device is much, much slimmer. So they've shrunk this camera module down in a very impressive way. If we kind of zoom up here just a little bit and we take a look at the inner display, it does to me look like those inner bezels are just a little bit slimmer. I don't think it's a radical change, and honestly, it doesn't need to be a big screen like that. I like having a little bit of a bezel to actually hold the device with. Call me crazy, but I actually hold my device when I'm using it, so having a little bit of bezel actually is fine with me. Not a big change there. We can see, I would say that is the alert slider here. We have our volume rocker and power button here. They are just as high as they were before. I don't know why they're doing that, but they are doing it again. Looking at the cover display, there are a few things worth noting here as well. Look at this corner right up there at the top. That's definitely kind of shrunk down, right? That is the area where the hinge is. Over here, it just rounds off. Over here, it has to kind of point out just a little bit, because you have a hinge there and there's a screen on the inside. So that is a thing, and it does look to me to possibly be slightly smaller, but definitely smaller, is this whole left side where the hinge typically should stick out. It does stick out a little bit, but man, they have shrunk it down. It was already very small on the OnePlus Open. It is impossibly small on the OnePlus Open 2 or Oppo Find N5. This whole area is just absurdly impressive to me. Now, interestingly, this is not the only imagery that I need to show you, because the Chief Product Officer of Oppo, Pete Lau, also posted a couple of images yesterday himself, taking some pretty heavy shots at the Galaxy Z Fold 6, showing just straight up the front of this device with the crease being visible. So here's a really good look at the front of that device. And if I'm being honest with you, from this perspective, if not for the fact that Pete explicitly tagged this with Oppo Find N5, I might actually think that there was a mistake being made here, and this was the original OnePlus Open. This looks identical to the OnePlus Open. Even things like where the antenna lines are on this device are exactly in the same spot. One thing I can see is that on the OnePlus Open, there's a speaker right here, and the SIM tray is right here. But otherwise, this looks so remarkably similar. But, of course, that crease is very hard to see. And in the other image, it is also very, very hard to see. Now, I do want to point out to you, or I guess kind of just remind you, that when these foldables are brand new, when you first open them up, the crease will never again look as good as it looked in that moment. When I opened up my OnePlus Open, that's about what that crease looked like. But over time, being bent and creased, the crease does become more visible. So I would guess this is probably not a broken-in OnePlus Open, and that's probably a broken-in Z Fold 6. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a much better, harder to see crease than the Z Fold 6. I think I called this the OnePlus Open. You know what I mean. I would expect it to be a better looking crease, but I don't think that this is probably a totally fair comparison because, again, this is probably not broken in, and that probably is. We've also seen this image, this still that I pulled from a promotional video that they posted on Weibo, where you can kind of see that crease a bit more clearly. So, and this is a device that's definitely been used a bit more. So again, I think that it'll look closer to that than what we see in that imagery. At the end of the day, though, if you've somehow missed out on some of this stuff, this device, spec-wise, looks absolutely insane. 4.2 millimeters thick or thin whenever it's opened. 50-watt wireless charging, 80-watt wired charging, a battery somewhere in the 5,500 milliamp hour territory, a triple 50 megapixel camera setup that might have telephoto macro, which I would love to see, IPX6, X8, and X9 water resistance rating. They actually mentioned that in another promotional post on Weibo. And of course, that Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. This thing is looking unbelievable, and as best we can tell, somewhere around February the 20th is when they're going to be unveiling it, and the hope is, as they said, this was going to be a global simultaneous launch. That means that it will be launching in North America under the OnePlus banner, being the OnePlus Open 2, again, around February the 20th, which is only about 2 short weeks away. But guys, like I said, this is kind of the big one for me. These are the images that we've been waiting for, getting our first really good, clean look at what this device is going to look like. And I don't think that these images have disappointed. It looks about like what I expected, but very, very good, very thin. I like the space next to that cover display where the hinge is. Very, very impressive stuff. Guys, thanks for watching. Again, check out the link in the description down below for the full images. Tell me what you think about this in the comments down below. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.